Makima vs. Gojo is one of those YouTube videos that content creators almost have an obligation to make. Think of Itachi vs. Pain, Minato vs. Tobirama, and Gojo vs. Kakashi. Eventually, Makima falls into the conversation of one of the characters to run the Gojo gauntlet. A matchup between the untouchable force versus the unkillable, well, devil. It's sure to get a lot of recognition. Both characters have strong similarities with stark differences within their stories they dominate. Gojo carries the series on his back with superior stats, abilities and aura, and continues to weigh on the characters even after his death. His performance against Sukuna was so legendary that when it is animated, it will rival Goku vs Frieza and Goku vs Jiren. Gojo's power literally shaped the narrative of the JJK world. Makima is in a similar boat. The biggest moments in Chainsaw Man all involve Makima in one way or another. Her presence has been felt for years after her death, with characters literally having variations of her abilities. These abilities have also created new debates, such as how does Yoru do against Makima, and what about the Falling Devil? Is the Aging Devil low-key the strongest devil? I hope to answer some of these questions indirectly, but that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about a fight between these two and how it would go. I don't want to be that guy, but I feel like a lot of people that actually do this video have not read both series. JJK and Chainsaw Man suffer from a lack of concrete scaling, so there's obviously going to be some questions we cannot answer. Makima's abilities tend to go unexplained in a rather vague verse like Chainsaw Man, and Gojo often has Gege describe his abilities with overly complicated flowery language with math terms that don't actually describe what they do. This video is designed for people to easily understand, so apologies if you're quite adept in this scene. If you have not read one or both of these series, this video is for you, and for those of you that are experienced in the field, I have some new arguments, so stay tuned. Makima's appearance stems from Chainsaw Man chapters 1 to 96. Her appearance in the story seems ever present and has an otherworldly feel. Her abilities and character shares motifs with canines, with the ability to perceive things from extreme distances. Her sight allows her to spot the gun devil from over 500 kilometers away. She can hear from vast distances due to her connection with small animals, and she can smell devils, fiends and hybrids with no issues. Alongside her strong senses are her physical capabilities, which are equally impressive, being able to defeat Pochita in hand-to-hand combat. This is significant as we should look towards the actual damage Makima inflicts on Pochita's actual body. People will discredit this feat by looking at the quote here, as Makima says, he is far below the Black Chainsaw Man they fought earlier. However, what should be noted is that the hybrids are in fact going all out, and they actually perform infinitely worse than Makima individually. So what does this mean? Well, it means that Makima in pure hand-to-hand scales above the Bat Devil Sonic Blast, which blows apart several buildings, the Bomb Devil, which blew apart many small buildings and roads, Hybrid Aki's gun attack, which blew apart a city block, and Quan Zi's battle with the Doll Devil. Now, please God, let me talk about Quan Zi, because this is by far the most important part of her scaling. In the Global Assassins arc, Quan Zi is stated to be the first Devil Hunter, and is heavily implied to be the strongest as she fights and wins against Kishibe, who is the strongest Devil Hunter. Kishibe noting that in a bare-knuckled fistfight, Quan Zi would come out on top. Her speed is always shown to be next level, as she blitzes hundreds of Doll Devils that has been calced from anywhere from Mach 1 to 200, which Makima scales above due to her exchange with the Darkness Devil, of course, and the Darkness Devil annihilated Quan Zi, no difficulty. This is crazy because Quan Zi one-taps Angel and Aki at the same time, Aki a person who can see the future and fought and defeated Katana Man with high difficulty. Quan Zi also has her own hybrid form, which is a clear stat increase. Remember, Chainsaw Man does actually scale to her in this form. Makima does obviously scale above Quan Zi and her girls as they surrender immediately after the incident with the Doll Devil. Of course, Makima's stats don't seem too impressive when compared to other series like Naruto or JJK, and especially Bleach, but we will return to her stats in another section of this video. What makes Makima a massive threat in any versus debate or battle is her immortality, which is achieved through her contract with the Prime Minister of Japan. Many people will argue that the contract can be bypassed through different methodologies. However, most arguments people make is just cope, since the devils creating a verbal contract holds significant value, and this is elaborated on by the Eternity Devil, who, in exchange for Chainsaw Man's heart, our main characters will be freed from their confinement. Here, our characters question the validity of the Eternity Devil, but Himeno interjects and says devils cannot lie or trick anybody. They, when making a verbal contract, is taken as gospel, which is explained here. The devil, it called it a contract. When devils use the word contract, it holds a lot of power. When one party honours the contract, the other party has to honour it too. When you don't hold up your end of the deal, you die. I've compared contracts to domains before, and you can kind of see why. Makima states, "As per my contract with the Prime Minister, attacks made on me will be changed into appropriate illnesses or accidents among Japanese citizens." So with this overpowered ability, how did Makima end up dying? Is there anything in the verse that could possibly lowball her immortality? Well, not really. The only thing to discredit Makima's immortality is seen in the final chapters, with her interference with Power's blood, where it slowed down her regeneration. However, both characters agree Power's blood is only a temporary inconvenience. As Denji looks down at Makima and apologizes for what is about to happen, Denji, in this state, loves Makima. He actually noticeably never lands a hit on her, rather Pochita is the one to land every attack. This attack with Power's blood actually seems to harm Makima more than a blitz attack from the hospital and their hand-to-hand exchanges. So you might want to ask yourself, how does this happen? Well, it's actually due to intent. Per my contract with the Prime Minister, attacks made on me will be made into appropriate illnesses or accidents. The word attack here heavily implies aggression, harm, or opposition. Since Denji genuinely loved Makima, he bypassed the contract. This must be taken at face value. If Gojo cannot figure out the contract, or if Makima does not reveal her contract, Gojo will never defeat her through conventional means. In chapter 66, Makima communicates with the Spider Devil Princey, where she begs Makima not to come and save her from the Darkness Devil. Makima utters the words, "Call me," to Princey, immediately teleporting Makima in. After a brief exchange with the Hell Devil, she orders him to send everyone back. Makima's essence as the Conquest Devil, or better known as the Control Devil, allows her to instantly control anyone who is seen as beneath her. As we see in the many chapters with Aki, Angel, and Power, this ability, and I need you guys to remember this, can be broken. After remembering his old life and his regrets, Angel breaks free from his control and attempts to attack Makima. This shows us a few interesting things about Makima's controlling power. It is not an instant win con, number one, if you are strong-willed. Number two, Makima can immediately control you again if she deems so. And number three, Makima can alter your memories, shown with Aki's inconsistent memories of Makima and through Angel's memories. A lot of people don't even bring up power when discussing Makima's controlling ability, which I find really weird and goes to show that a lot of people don't actually read the series. When someone breaks the controlling power of Makima, she can actually still control you using her chains. Aki and Power were rather strong-willed when it came to Makima's verbal commands, but as soon as the chains came out, it was game over. Rip Death Battle for not remembering this. While impressive, I don't actually see her controlling ability as something that holds a lot of stock. Instead, what I see is how she uses her controlling power to build an army. Remember, this is not Makima versus Gojo, the 1v1. It's kind of like a 1 versus 100, which we'll get into now. In Makima's possession is the Angel Devil, as previously mentioned, who can create significantly powerful weapons that potentially can travel at light speed, the Spider Devil for teleportation, the Future Devil to perceive the future, Punishment Devil, who was implied to have defeated the Gun Devil, the Zombie Devil to resurrect dead bodies and to create a small army, the Controlled Hybrids, the Spear, Whip, Kwanzi, who I believe is the Ballistics Devil or some kind of bow or crossbow devil, the Gun, Sword, Katana, and Bomb Hybrids, all of which actually damage the Black Chainsaw Man, which should have the highest scaling in the verse, and potentially or possibly the Hell Devil, who can teleport you to Hell, which is a win con. If these devils or hybrids are lacking, Makima usually uses her Bang ability to blow apart people's bodies. As we see in the latest chapters, Yoru sacrifices her children, the Bomb and Tank Devil, to create gauntlets that allow her to use a very similar style Bang ability. She also summons the Gun Goddess that puts the Black Chainsaw Man down down in a singular hit. This is where we potentially have a bit of an issue with Bang, as it seems to be a physical projectile that travels. This has a few weird implications for how Makima achieved her Bang ability. First of all, it would make sense that Makima would firstly eliminate the Gun Devil before fighting a full power Pochita. Secondly, it shows Makima is currently possibly eating pieces of Devil's fleshes to make herself stronger. Thirdly, it might mean that Makima's abilities are far more mysterious than we originally thought, if she is consuming devil flesh. I would argue that Makima's abilities are different to Yoru's, or the War Devil, but that's up in the air. It seems like they're the same ability, but who knows. With all that said, we can now finally get into Gojo, and return to Makima's weird scaling when it's necessary. I'll be a bit more brief with my section of Gojo, as he has been exposed in many videos, but I'll try my best to make the information enjoyable to listen to and digestible. The energy system in JJK and all sources of abilities of power is done through cursed energy. The product of negative emotions can manifest itself into individuals to fuel jujutsu. Curses, or cursed energy, can also result in cursed spirits. This means the only way to expel a curse is with cursed energy. Gojo's curse technique is called the Limitless, which is used alongside his 6 eyes. Neutral Limitless, let's get into this. Gojo's brain is essentially a supercomputer and can process crazy fast speeds. 24/7, Gojo is assessing threats and applying it to his technique. The Neutral Limitless is simply an invisible force field around Gojo that infinitely slows down threats. This is shown by his training with Shoko and Geto, where a rubber hits his head and a pencil floats around him. Gojo can also stop non-threatening threats, where Utahime attempts to throw her drink at him, where he just simply holds up a hand sign and negates the tea. This shows that Gojo essentially cannot be hit at all through conventional means. The author Gege Akutami and Gojo himself has gone out of their way to explain Neutral Limitless over and over and over again, which is essentially an echo of the story of Achilles and the tortoise. When someone tries to make halfway to a distance and then halfway of that distance and so on and so on, it essentially never reaches its target. This is how Gojo stops oncoming attacks. The only things to ever bypass Neutral Limitless is Cursed Tools, Maharaga's adaptation, domain amplifications, your own domain expansion, and attacks themselves that target Gojo himself, not the space around him, as seen through Sukuna's world-cutting slash. Another thing that could potentially give Gojo issue is during Curse Technique Burnout, where when Gojo activates his domain, essentially he's without his Curse Technique. This means that after a domain, he is essentially an open target. Speaking of domain expansions, let's get into it. Gojo's domain expansion tends to be the biggest win con in versus debates, and for good reason. It's essentially a mind break. It forces 6 months worth of information into your brain in 0.2 seconds. This technique is enough to completely stun powerful curses like Jogo and Mahito, and causes the King of Curses enough brain damage to the point where he cannot open his own domain. Really think about this. Sukuna, the King of Curses, the most powerful thing in the series, a brief encounter with Gojo's domain severely nerfed him. Unlimited Void is a very flexible technique, as we can see that many changes are made on the fly, such as changing its conditions, shape, and strength. We also see that Gojo can open his domain probably half a dozen times, if not more, against his battle with Sukuna. Gojo possesses even more techniques, but the main ones being red, blue, and purple. Simply put, blue is a derivative of the Limitless technique, where Gojo can summon a blue sphere of various shapes and sizes to pull objects into its gravity. He can summon a shockwave that crushes anything at a fixed point. Blue's versatility shows itself where Gojo can surround his fists in blue, thus increasing its devastating attack power. Red, on the other hand, is the reverse curse application of Gojo's technique, and the inverse of blue. Instead of attracting, it repels objects. Not as interesting as blue, but red's AP tends to be extremely high as it damages Sukuna, Jogo, and Toji, and many cursed spirits. By combining these techniques, we get Gojo's purple, the hollow purple technique that is said to erase matter. I see a lot of people hype up this technique, saying that it's light speed since it's an imaginary mass, which it potentially could be. I do like that interpretation. Although, I do not think it has infinite AP. Gojo and Sukuna both take a purple point blank, and while damaged, they are both fine. We also see that when Toji is revived by Granny, he still has his left side without any issues. Purple seems to just crush space to a very high degree, and Gege's words of describing Purple just were so over the top that it confused a lot of people. It has high AP, but I don't consider it something that could take Makima down for good. Now we can get into Gojo's scaling, which we can all agree, him and Sukuna are just above anything else in the series. Gege and all the characters just say all the time that Gojo is the strongest. This means that anything in the series, we can just put Gojo equal to or just far above, with few exceptions like Takaba's reality warping abilities. Gojo scales above Hikari, who can dodge a lightning bolt that has been calced all the way from Mark 500 to 4000, depending on the interpretation of the scene. He probably scales above Sukuna being able to dodge Kashimo's electromagnetic waves, which, if correctly scaled and correctly calced, has been placed at anywhere from 0.9 to 1.3 times the speed of light. Or Sukuna just aim dodged it. Really need this scene to be animated, to be honest. In terms of AP, we can scale Gojo above Jogo's maximum immedial, which was going to nuke the entirety of Shibuya, Dagon's domain, which summoned an island with a large body of water in the background, and of course many feats regarding the flowery language used with red, purple, and domain expansion. Like I said before, it's way more consistent for JJK to scale at those large city levels, especially with purple, because if we look at Dagon's domain scaling above an island, if he actually did create an island and it's not just teleporting you somewhere, Gojo would easily destroy this domain without any issues. There's also high ends for JJK, such as Yuki's black hole, and the back of the volume statements where it says that Sukuna has enough power to destroy the planet. Although, let's be honest, Sukuna's stronger than Gojo, so that statement might just not be relevant, but I would scale Gojo above Yuki's black hole if it was actually going to destroy the planet. We also have some weird highballs such as infinite speed arguments or inaccessible speed arguments using the prison realm. Although, if we want to be silly like that, we could also say Makima has their own inaccessible speed arguments using the Eternity Devil, so maybe they both just have inaccessible speeds. My favourite one is, now get ready for this, Star Level Dagon. So maybe those black hole feats aren't too far off. So for those of you that don't get it, he's basically an untouchable teleporting high-speed individual that can mind break you at any moment while crushing you with an array of techniques that manipulate space-time. I think it's fair to say that Gojo is a fair bit stronger than Makima, but not to the point where they can't just interact and put up a fight with each other. There are some good arguments, and depending on what you value, that could put Makima as faster than Gojo. Remember, they both have those inaccessible speed arguments. Particularly around the Gun Devil, where Makima's reaction feat has been calced at Mark 1000, where she spots the Gun Devil from 500 kilometers away and reacts in under a second. You could also argue that Gojo has more durability in AP, seeing though he tanks purple and Makima's getting shot by bullets. Unless you want to scale Makima using those transcendent arguments, which I like to bring up, which I will right now. Chapter 64. Far beyond here, devils far more powerful than some Gun Devil. The devils with the names of the primal fears are transcendent. They're transcendent devils who have never experienced death. Statements like this are even more consistent, especially with the Falling Devil being introduced and casually impacting the entire world just through her presence alone. Although it's questionable if Makima actually scales to these primal fears. In my own opinion, the Darkness Devil is stronger than the Falling Devil, and Makima just nearly blows its body apart with one attack. Although this is extremely highballed, a highball JJK is easily planetary, and it's also less vague than Chainsaw Man. So it's really up to you with what you value. Personally for me, I think planetary JJK is a little bit of wank. I think Gege really wanted, especially Gojo, to be in those large city to continental levels, particularly with special grades being able to take down a country all by themselves. However, planetary Sukuna is fine. He literally has techniques that are named after divine deities, and Gege goes really crazy into the Buddha stuff. I think most people would also agree that Makima vs Gojo isn't close in terms of stats, but I kind of disagree. Both can be argued to inaccessible speeds, and Gojo, with more consistently, takes the AP and durability. Like I said, there are transcendent arguments for Makima. So with that said, let's discuss the hack's abilities and interpretations. Let me annoy you by saying this, and this is where the video is going to get a little spicy. Gojo's domain expansion wouldn't work, nor would Hollow Purple. As the Cosmo Devil faces Santa Claus, she says, "The phenomena you're about to experience is only natural. You are about to understand everything in the universe. You currently fancy yourself to have understand everything through the power of darkness, correct? But everything as you understand it doesn't even fill one page of one book of this library. All the contents of all the books in this library are about to flow into your mind. And this time, you will truly come to understand everything. What will happen to me? Once you understand everything, all you can say is Halloween." Makima faces this Cosmo Devil and Kwanzi, and they immediately surrender. It needs to be stated that Kwanzi's whole character and her whole reasoning for entering the Assassin's Arc is for the benefit of her girls. Her girls love Kwanzi and would do anything for her. Despite this, alongside Makima, they are helpless. Really says a lot about Makima's resistances to such abilities. Halloween is also, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, more powerful than Unlimited Void. Instead of 6 months of information in 0.2 seconds, this Halloween ability forces all the knowledge into the universe pretty much straight away. All the characters don't really seem to age or anything. It seems to have just been within the minute or within the few seconds. If we assume Santa Claus is like 20 to 30 years old and she has expanded knowledge using the Darkness Devil's flesh, she doesn't have enough information of one page of one book. Cosmo is about to flood every single book into the user's mind straight away. This is much more powerful than Unlimited Void. To further this as well, normal people hit with Unlimited Void were fine, despite having to recover for a fair bit. Jogo was also hit and was fighting not long after. We also need to remember that Unlimited Void actually does attack the brain and causes brain damage. A domain is seen as a violent act of jujitsu to end the fight. This would just be redirected to some poor Japanese citizens. If we say Gojo can just sit there for 100 days, it's still not enough time to reach 100 million Japanese citizens. This is just something else that Death Battle got wrong. Most people would argue that Unlimited Void is more so used to set up a stun attack for Hollow Purple. And I have to ask you guys, why would Hollow Purple work? Makima's contract is pretty explicit. Any damage is distributed to a Japanese citizen. And the damage Makima sustains appears to just be a one-for-one exchange. For example, if Makima is decapitated by Chainsaw Man, a Devil Hunter is just decapitated. If Makima's body is torn apart, guess what? Someone else's body is torn apart. Makima is never confirmed needing to have a body part or cell to regenerate from. Even when Denji consumes her, the meat within her is still trying to reincarnate. Gojo would also never figure out Makima's contract unless she outright tells him. I don't see Gojo gaslighting himself into loving Makima like Denji did. It would be extremely out of character, and Gojo would have to do some weird mental prep shit for this even to work. Instead of domain expansion and purple, the better arguments I see for Gojo winning is if you argue Makima is considered a curse. And Gojo, just through the use of Jujitsu, can dispel her using a sealing technique or just some type of Jujitsu hidden power. So, what is the win cons for this fight? Well, it's actually more of a stalemate, honestly, guys. Gojo can't kill Makima, nor would he wish harm of Japanese citizens. Makima doesn't have a way to reach Gojo's body unless Gojo pops his domain and leaves himself defenseless. Instead, I see a battle of these two being a battle of wits. Gojo would also have his hands full with all of Makima's controlled devils, possibly setting her up for a bang if it can reach Gojo's body. However, I don't see Makima's chains or her bang ability ever reaching Gojo, as that is a direct attack. Instead, the real win con for Makima is to possibly retreat and use her crushing force, or potentially the Mold Devil, since we know Gojo's brain is susceptible to damage, especially after using his domain. Gojo must be careful after a domain activation. To be honest, Makima could also just control Gojo outright. The only reason Makima didn't control Denji is because she was just a massive fan and respected Chainsaw Man to a massive degree. The devil who erases concepts on a physical and conceptual level Changing the world by removing Nazis' nuclear bombs and diseases by eating them? Yeah, I can see why Makima kind of respected this ability. Makima might have some type of strong respect or love to Gojo if Gojo summoning his domain actually does summon a universe like the anime adaptation showed, so maybe that could be a win con. To be honest, Gojo literally doesn't have a single win con that's concrete. Not even holding his domain up for months on end would do enough damage to kill Japanese citizens. He may also gas out, as shown in his fight in Shinjuku and Shibuya, where he actually was fatigued and fighting for his life. We know that Gojo can't fight for long stretches of time as his brain actually does require food, snacks and sugar to keep up with his high level of Limitless. Gojo even agrees that holding up Limitless for a long time is exhausting. One possible win con for Gojo is arguing that Makima is a curse as previously described. Makima would realistically fatigue Gojo using her contracts in her control hybrids, possibly using the Mold Devil to impact his brain, and probably just eventually crushing him or sending him to hell with some kind of Limitless. Guys, that's the video. I have been requested it in the past. What do you guys think? I really hope to get your thoughts in the comments section below. Give me some more ideas with videos I could do next, and I'll catch y'all later. Bye!